Absolutely. It was an important hearing. We learned there were some regulatory issues that we could address together. And one thing that I think that Senator Shaheen and I both support that I'm confident and feel good that we will get done this year is reauthorization of the Export-Import Bank, which has been something that small businesses in New Hampshire have been able to use very effectively. It allows us to compete with other countries and for them to get financing they might not otherwise be able to get for their products. And it's a net winner for the taxpayers. We've actually brought billions of dollars back into the Treasury with it. So it's a program where we can all look at it. It's very fiscally sound. And I've signed a letter recently with a very large group of Republicans saying, please bring this to the floor. I know Senator Shaheen is also a great supporter of it as well. So that's one thing I expect us to get done and hope we can get done that will help. New Hampshire's been a great growth area for New Hampshire, has been exports. That's why I think both of us supported the three free trade agreements that came before the Senate. That was another bipartisan accomplishment for the Senate, and it's a growth area for New Hampshire's businesses in particular. And I'd also like, as we look forward, this is a much more difficult issue, but keeping in mind that in December, with all the tax rates expiring and everything that's happening then, I really hope that we will take that opportunity to look at overall tax reform in a way that is positive for everyone, and also will be in a way that helps economic growth. In particular, our corporate rate. We now have the highest corporate rate in the world. Japan has lowered theirs, and other countries continue to lower theirs. So that's something that I would like to see us do for all of our businesses, large and small. And I think there's an opportunity at the end of the year on a bipartisan basis to address this issue.
The hearing that we did last summer, as Senator Ayotte said, was on exporting. And I've been a big supporter of trade since I was governor and took the first trade missions overseas, and have really seen the benefit to New Hampshire businesses. You know, 95% of markets are outside of the United States, but only 1% of small and medium-sized businesses are doing business outside the United States. So looking at ways to help small businesses get into those international markets is really important. And one of the things we heard at that hearing was that state trade organizations are not considered in some of the national decisions around what can be done to help businesses export. So that's one of the areas that we're working to try and get addressed, and we've not had much luck so far in getting some of the administrative agencies to do that on their own, so I think we're proposing legislation to do that. We also need to make sure that businesses can be innovative. I talked about the SBIR legislation that was first introduced by Warren Rudman and has been really helpful to small business in New Hampshire as they've tried to innovate to stay competitive. We need to make sure we have a trained workforce. Again, something that I think we can all be very proud of in New Hampshire as we look at how our schools are doing. We need to support our system of higher education and schools. We need to make sure that we are graduating enough young people in the STEM subjects, science, engineering, technology, and math, because that's very important to small business. And we do need to address regulation. There's no doubt about it. About 80% of the regulation that small business deals with has to do with their taxes. And we absolutely need to reform and simplify our tax code. But as we look at how we address our debt and deficits going forward, I think that's got to be a critical piece of it. Right now, we're spending as much more, actually, in tax loopholes than we're taking in individual income tax returns. That's a system that can't continue. And we do have the highest corporate tax rate. But when you figure in all of those loopholes, we're down around in the middle. So we've got to address that, because right now we spend $1.1 trillion on those tax loopholes. And that's more than we spend for defense, for Medicare, or for Medicaid in a year. We can't continue to do this, folks. We've got to change the system.
Let's get, pardon me, let's get to the audience. I'll spread out on this side of the room.